Right, we can go.
Good morning. Hey, I'm so glad that you could join us today for the 6 tips for teaching finances to teenagers. And here's the thing I really want you to know. I want you to know that teenagers know something that adults don't. So I'm going to put that in here for you as well. And we will have a question and answer period at the very end on a separate video. So for today, we're going to really focus in on what are the 6 tips on teaching finances to teens, and also that hidden gem of what they have to teach us. And when we start looking at that, I'm going to start with the statistics. So we can put up another slide of what are the statistics. There are tons of statistics, but here's what you need to know right away, which is that we have to focus in on what's important to those teenagers right now. And the thing that they know that we don't know is they actually don't know what's impossible. They don't understand what's impossible. They think that everything is possible in their goals and their choices. And I'll give you an example from a little girl that lives right down the road from us. My husband ran 64 miles for his 64th birthday, all in one day. And this little girl was so charmed by the fact that he could do that, she just decided that she was going to do it. And she is 12. Hannah is 12. And she got on that treadmill and she said, I'm gonna run that too. And her mom's like, oh, okay. Well, 1 hour turned to 2 hours, turned to 3 hours, turned to 4 hours, and 7 hours later, she'd gone 21 miles. Wow. And why could she do that? Because nobody told her that that was hard. Nobody told her that she couldn't do that. So when you're making plans and you're going through finances with your teenagers, just remember they know something that you don't, which is they don't know what's impossible. So if they want to have a high dream, you kind of got to go with it. And these kids are spenders. They have a huge amount of spending power, but it doesn't matter where the statistic is. The statistic of what they are spending their money on doesn't change no matter what country we're in. So these are US statistics of the $250 billion of annual spending. But here's the thing. Male and female children spend things in just a different amount, but they don't actually spend it on different categories. So they're going to look at clothes, they're going to look at food, and they're going to look at electronics and communication. Those are the really big ones that you have to know. So when we start looking at, what is one of the biggest pieces of trouble here is, let's pull up the next slide, which is that many people learn how to the spending pattern when they're a teenager and they keep it as an adult. So 70% of the people in the United States are still spending like a teenager, that they're only focusing on a very few topics and they're not really doing a financial planning session. And that is true actually in the top, in the G20, that when we look at the top 20 economies, they have the same problems. So that once you learn a spending habit, you're going to keep it. And the number one thing that I need everybody to know always is that money only has one purpose. It's only going to buy you some choices. And for teenagers, that's really looking like choices about what they're going to eat, when they're going to eat it, who they're going to eat it with, and what they're wearing while they're eating it, or what they're wearing while they're talking on their phones, or having communication, or playing video games. So money only has one purpose. Let's go on to tip 1. This is, if I could teach, tip 1 is, let's go back one. Tip 1 is savings first. That one of the things that you have to know is that savings is first, not last. Oh, I see the last slide. So the last slide was up for the purpose of reminding you what are your spending habits, right? What is it that you learned how to spend and from who? So that's one of the things I do want you to think about as you're going through all of these pieces. Yep, there it is. The spending habits. What helped you? What got you here today? A lot of you that are watching this are actually really good with money. You are your child's, which is now a young person, You are your child's best hope for being awesome. And the more that you can move into their thought process and what they're doing and how they think about things, the greater impact you can have for their whole life. Tip 1, savings is first, not last. You'll hear it, pay yourself first. But here's the real deal on this, is that when you start looking at what you need, I'm always going to say get that first $1,000 in the bank. That first $1,000 is going to change everybody's life. And that's $1,000 that they aren't allowed to touch, that they're going to need it, and they're going to need it for reasons that they don't know yet. And the power of having money means that you can make choices. And I'll give you an example from a young person that I know, that they were going in to fix the car, the family car. So this was actually a young mom, and their car was going to break. They knew the mechanic, and the mechanic had a car for sale. And he had given them the bad news that their car was going to die. And she's like, well, I see one for sale right there. And they had taken my advice a long time ago, which is to make sure you have money in the bank just for this moment, for this day. And the car was $2,500. She said, oh, okay. Well, if I have money, I can buy big things for less. And this was a big thing. And by just owning money, just keeping it to the side, is also for this one moment where she just looked at him and she just said, look, I know that car is $2,500, but if I give you $1,200 and I have it here in 2 hours, will you sell it to me? And he was like, yeah, it's the end of the month. I got to pay rent. Absolutely. I'll sell it to you right now. The car. So she got exactly what she needed, a car at half off. But that was because she understood that savings is first, not last. And these are the things that when you have a pile of savings, it's going to change the choices that you get, because you'll be able to deal in those moments. Let's go on to the next slide. These small lessons over time. That's one of the things that I like to remind people about, is when you're talking to teens about money, you really do have to kind of put a place on your calendar and go over these smaller lessons, kind of, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, to just get into a conversation habit of kind of the top 10 things that they're going to have. They're going to want to learn to drive. They're going to want to buy things. They're going to want, how to manage all of the details of their lives. And they don't know them. And they don't know what is ahead of them as an adult. So these small lessons that you have kind of Saturday morning, it'll give them a much greater chance for you to find the pieces that they don't know. They don't know what a deductible is. They don't know what the rules are about driving. They don't know the rules about, going to college or all the things that it takes. We have a social security system here, so they have numbers, and how do they do a job application? There's a million things to learn. So take it and just do it small lessons over time. Let's go on to the next slide, which is tip 2. This one is actually, this explains why so many people hate paying bills. Tip 2, know what things cost and know what they cost really. Many parents have done the mistake on your generation, is that their kids got jobs and they just let them have the money and spend it any way they wanted. So going back to that first conversation of, right, why are they spending like a teenager? Because they didn't learn any other way. This is where we fix that. Tip 2. There's a multitude of ways that we can teach children or teenagers that there's a real cost in life, and those are things that you pay first, not just the things that you want. But when we program them as a teenager to just spend their money any way they want, they'll become an adult that says, oh, I just want to spend my money any way I want. So going through the budget, why do you do the things that you do? And sharing a family budget is really powerful. And if you're willing to do it, it also allows them to have some habits that you can help them build. They may be saving for longer term. They may be saving for other things that they really want to be able to do, but saving that family budget, knowing what things really cost. And sometimes that's the cost of, what does it cost to have insurance? What does it cost to have a car? What does it cost? You know, things that they just don't know. Let's go on to the next part about where you can really be a critical role in that concept, which is find out where the value investment is that they want, that they are interested in. If we talk to them about retirement way down the way, they don't need to know that. They are not interested in that. Find the things that they are really focused on. What does it cost to go to school? What does it cost to do the things that you want? And this is where I think we can really invite them to understand that investing in themselves is the best thing that they could do. That investing in themselves for something greater. That's something that is going to bring them meaning. It could be a dance class, it could be sports, it could be learning to sing, but investing in things that they are interested in right now. And let's flip the slide up again. When we get to the next slide, here's the other thing that I need you to know is if you have more than one child, they aren't alike. They do not value the same things, even though they've come from the same family unit. They are not going to want to do the same things with their money as their brothers or sisters. And so you're going to have to kind of take these 6 tips and you're going to have to apply them to each of your children and really focus in on the things that are going to be meaningful for each child. Let's move up a slide. This one is every time that I bring this up in a class that has actual teenagers in it, they want to like jump up and hug me because we forget that it's scary. Grown-upness is scary. It looks hard. It's not as exciting. There's a lot of stuff to remember. But here's the thing that I want every parent to understand is there really is a physical piece of pain that comes in for teenagers around this topic of anticipation. So anticipation can be a really fantastic thing, but it can also be an incredibly stressful thing. So one of the things I want to really look at is the difference between anticipation and anxiety. Because anticipation is that you're just waiting to get to a known outcome. Anxiety is an unanswered question, you don't know how to get there. So really look at what is the difference? How are we talking to them? Anticipation is also an incredibly meaningful thing to teenagers because it also helps them understand how to move things, how to be more pliable, right? Being able to wait for something that they've been excited about is a fantastic piece of energy. But if they don't know what it's going to look like, it's just a complete dose of pain. And that's where you as a parent are going to really look at what are you dealing? What are you letting them know? Well, you just have to wait and find out. Well, I don't want to. And that in their system of where they are going to read that as painful. So when they say this really hurts, this hurts, or like if you watch a scary movie, right? So crazy. But if you can teach anticipation as opposed to anxiety, you'll actually have a child that can be an adult that can move through lots of these topics without having to have so much pain. Anticipation versus anxiety changes at around age 24. Let's flip the chart up again. When we start to look at the biggest thing that you can do in this conversation is help them understand when they're feeling anxious versus anticipating, and really ask them, what's the unanswered question? Or just really, how do I get there, right? How, I want to go there. I want to go over there. They don't actually know. So when you start to look at that, it's helping them understand what is point A and what is point B, and what is the thing that they want, right? What's the outcome that they're trying to get to? They will learn by doing. And these years are the perfect years for them to take on huge risks because you're going to protect them. So this is a great time to take on a risk. and teaching them that risk is okay, that a lot of teenagers do not have the stomach for risk. And you have to teach them what kind of risks there are. And the way to mitigate risk is by creating a backup plan. About that, how things can go poorly? They're gonna go poorly. Not the world always is gonna go poorly at times. So let's get you a backup plan, that every plan that they wanna take, no matter how risky it is, has a way to keep them safe. There's some things that they can put in place for themselves. Let's go up to the next slide. Internships. If I could give you one tip in this category, right, it is internships. That children, young people who have internships as a teenager are far more likely to get full-time work as when they're finished with their education. And 81% of people who have had an internship, but this is specific to teens, 81% of teens who have had an internship absolutely change where they're going to direct their job search. So it is a way to expand. It's a way to give them a way to take risk, to learn new things, to learn them from other people, but it will impact the choices that they make. Let's go to the next slide. The tip 4. This tip 4 and tip and tip 5 are really going to be big ones. So if you're writing notes, this is where you really need to do that. Is longer term strategy builds strength. If you're trying to hit a window that's only this big, it's really hard. But if you're trying to hit a window that's a little bit bigger, has a little more time on it, it's a lot easier. You can learn to do more things that will allow you to interface with that. So having a longer term strategy for teenagers, a lot of times that longer term strategy is going to be around an electronic device. So they're going to look at how do they buy that device. So you're going to buy probably $1,000 device. Okay, well, let's talk about the strategy that you're going to need to be able to not have to rebuy it, that it's a lot of money. You want to be able to hold on to it. You want to be able to insure it in case it gets lost, broken, or stolen. That, you know, what's going to happen to that? Let's have a longer term strategy. You might want a screen protector. You may want to not carry it with you at a sporting event. You may not want to put it in a place where it can be stolen. You may want to put a program on it that helps you find it, right? These are longer term strategies. The same is true with a car, that if you're going to drive your car around a lot, you're going to need new tires. You're going to need money to the side. You're going to need money for car insurance. You're going to need some other things that allow you to keep going. And so when you're talking to those young people, you're also giving them the tools where they can be successful for their whole life. And that is build a strategy that's about keeping those financial choices for the whole time. It's one of the reasons I love, right, tip number 1, savings. That if you have a regular savings plan, you already have a strategy. You have a long-term strategy that if something terrible comes up, you have a pile of money to fix it. And there's always going to be something that's going to come up. And sometimes those are negative things, and sometimes they are positive things. The ability to buy a car at half off, or the ability to take advantage of a plane ride to Paris. That there are many things that having a longer term strategy and a savings plan together will really create. So when we're putting these ideas together, they're going to start stacking on top of each other. And that's why when we focus on those 6, we really get a solid base. We really get the opportunity to see things go really, really well. Let's go on to the next piece, which is, right, backup plans, communication for teenagers. When they rated it themselves, they found it as vital as food. So when you are thinking about, you don't need a phone, that's only your opinion. That their opinion is quite different. Their opinion is that this is the tool that they have to feel relevant or functional in the world. That's through that communication. So really understanding how they want to communicate, right? Eye to eye, but know that communication in their ranking of their needs is much higher than their parents' ranking of what they. When we look at this next piece, so let's go to the next slide. When we go to the next piece, and for those teens, this is the number one, like if you can get this understanding, this is life-changing. And it's life-changing because it gives them a long-term strategy on how to create wealth. And that is understanding the difference between base wage, starting wage, and wage increase. So when we start looking at these three things, this should be in the conversation of every person to understand how are they going to make money. A lot of kids are just taking a part-time job, they're just learning to work, no big thing. But if they work at one place, it's one rate. If they work at another, it's another rate. So why does it matter? Well, if it's $1 an hour, the average American works 2,080 hours, 2080. So it's 2,080 hours. What does that mean? It means that a simple change in $1 an hour for that person who's working full time is worth $2,000. Now, that is more. That is more. So if they're working, right, depending on where they're working, right, are they working, where are they working, right, what is the pay? So that $1 an hour is going to make a big difference in how much money they actually have over the long picture. So when you start looking at what is the base wage, a job has a definition that they're going to say, this is what we're doing in this job. So that's a base wage for someone who is just standing there or fulfilling a specific task, like a cashier, right? That base wage for a cashier is going to be pretty much the same for everywhere, every place. And that base wage is often about just the job itself. A starting wage is what you get to start at in that base wage, right? There's usually a spectrum. We can pay a cashier between this and this. And whatever we hire you at, right, this is your base wage. This is where it is at the bottom. The very bottom is a base wage. But you may have more skills, so you may be coming in the middle because you may have learned how to cashier already. You may have learned how to do some other things. That starting wage for you doesn't always have to be at the bottom. So starting wage is the wage that you're going to ask for. And sometimes they will have a starting wage that they will say, we're going to start everyone at the base wage, and then we'll assess you. And then we'll decide where your skills actually land. And that happens a lot in jobs that are getting a little closer towards management level. And that wage increase, how often are you eligible for a wage increase? Sometimes you're only eligible for a wage increase once a year. Sometimes you're eligible for a wage increase after just 3 months, then you get another one at 6 months, and then you get another one at 1 year. So knowing, right, how to do that critical path forward. For you as an adult, you think, okay, well, $1 an hour, that's a big, that's a raise. But the reality is that for an adult or a young person, when we change it to $5 an hour and they're working full time and they make $5 an hour more, now we have something that's life-changing. And now we have something that's going to change their life quite a bit, because that $5 an hour is now worth $10,000 more to them in a year. So looking at what would you buy with $10,000? Well, there's a lot of choices that you can make with an extra $10,000. So really looking at what is the wage that you are getting and how often you're getting that wage. The other thing that happens with this conversation is that what are you paid to do? That when you are paid to just stand there and check things out, it's not a ton of money. But when you're paid to use your brain, you get paid a lot more. And when you're paid to use your brain and everything that you've learned over 30 years, boy, you can really get paid well. So it's life-changing, investing in what you get paid, investing in how they get paid. What do they have to learn to be able to be better at a skill? What are the skills that they should consider? And looking at all the different jobs allows them to see what things make and helping them strive for something that's a little bit bigger. Let's move up to the next slide. When we look at the facts about teenagers, I hear a lot of parents push back on me to go, well, they don't really want to work that hard. Have you seen them around the house? You have to throw that away, because teenagers across the board are ready to work for others. They will absolutely do well out in the world, and they want to really start working. Most teenagers want to start before their 15th birthday. They want to start doing odd jobs or something like that, but they want to also prove themselves that they can do something. There's a huge piece of validation in letting them work and finding, even small jobs to be able to do great things. Let's move on to the next slide. The last thing I want to say about them working for other people is it's your role in having them work for other people is to help them decode all the secret things that they don't know. There's a lot of reasons why bosses will tell them to do things and they don't really know why they're doing them. So it's another way, parents are the best teachers. They really are. And you have so much to offer your young person. One of them is helping them understand why someone would ask for that. So why they would ask for the till to be on, to be accurately counted, why they have to put things away in a certain order, or why their manager may ask them to do that. That's the parent's role, is to help them decode the things that they don't understand in a place of employment, because it's a really different environment. They understand home environment, they understand school environment. Boy, do they understand school environment. But now we're giving them a whole new environment to be in. And you are the decoder in that. Okay, this is my last tip, but I do have a little bonus extra one for you, which is the cost and benefit of owning money. We talked about it already, about having money, just having it as a backup plan, but there is a cost to owning money, right? There's stuff you have to do. Owning money has a responsibility and it has a cost. If you don't own it well, you will pay penalties around it. And we call that an overdraft charge. So you have to learn how to really use your money. Most kids are running around with a plastic debit card. And owning one of these means that if you don't know what's on there, you are going to pay a penalty. So there's a cost to having money, but there's a benefit to having money. And that benefit of something like this is that you also have the ability to carry money in a way that isn't as easily stolen. When you have a card like this, so the costs and benefits of owning money are that you can also shop for bigger things and pay less for them because you own money. Let's pull up to the next slide. One of the things that is really a big thing about this, if I go back to the car slide, the car conversation, right, is having money allows you to make bigger choices and buy things. But there's so much to manage. When we look at these gift cards that they have, things like that, that they really need to be able to learn to. Okay, sometimes they're going to get a credit card, and when that credit card has a name in it, like American Express, or if it has a word Visa on it, there's rules attached to that. There's responsibilities around that. So teaching them to take a snapshot of any cards that they have, a school ID, a driver's license, a driver's permit, right? That there's a responsibility that goes with all of the things that they have. So they're going to need to know the PIN on the back of the card if it's a gift card. And that gift card, even if it is stolen, as long as they know that PIN and that little code, they will get to be able to have it replaced. So that's a really big deal. So when you're looking at the things that you can teach them about owning money, that there's a cost and a benefit, there's also this thing called fraud. And for teenagers, the number one teenager fraud is other teenagers. So when you are looking at what are the things that are going to go poorly for a teenager who has cards, that they are going to risk that their friends will take them, that somebody will pull it out of their book bag or whatever. The number one place of teen fraud is other teens. So have a backup, have a backup. Let's move up one more slide. I have a bonus one for you, which is, this is going back to the concept of anticipation and some other things. My bonus tip for you is really about investing in experiences. Now, it's not just because you want them to have a better life. It is because it teaches something really good. One of the reasons that I invite teenagers to go work in fast food restaurants is because it's going to teach them how to manage stress. I love fast food jobs. I love them, love them, love them, because there's always a lunch rush, right? There's always a lunch rush. And if you are in fast food, you are working on a line, you have one job, you have to do it. And when it is rushed, you got to do that job fast. And when it's packed and it's crazy, you have to perform. Otherwise, everybody else on that line is going to be mad at you at the end of the shift, right? So you have to learn to perform, and you have to understand stress. And understanding a lunch shift stress is very different, because it teaches you that things can build up and get really busy, and you can feel an enormous amount of stress that will relax and go back. And now you can exhale and learn how to recover from that. And then the next shift is coming, and there's going to be a bunch of stress, and you're going to come back. This is a learned behavior. And the same thing is true with experiences, that when we teach them to invest their money in things that are going to teach them something or do something, be exciting, it's going to have an unexpected outcome. So in this particular case, right, we were with these two teens, we were going on a helicopter ride, and they didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know if they were going to like it or not, and they had an experience that they felt like was one of the best things they'd ever done with their money, because it was worth it. We got anticipation, we got to think about it. They knew the outcome was that they were going to get on this day. They knew they had saved money for it, and that they could have this positive reaction. They could have had a not positive reaction. The reaction that they also had was, that was short, I should have bought a longer ride, right? These are unexpected outcomes. We won't know till we get there. And for teenagers, a lot of times they are doing experiences with other teenagers. So they also are going to learn that going to the concert with their friend and they don't really like it, and they had to spend all that money and they didn't have a good time, they're also going to get to know that investment. Sometimes it's not that fun. So investing in an experience helps them understand unexpected outcomes. And sometimes that's positive and sometimes it's not. Let's go up to the last slide here. I want to thank you guys for doing so much with me today. The world is full of choices, and that means that you have to do something, right? This is exactly where we started this with, was money only has one purpose. It's going to buy you some choices. And out of those choices, you're going to get choices, if you're a teenager, around what you're wearing, what you're buying, right? What you're eating, who you're talking to, right? Do you have a phone or not? But the world is full of choices. And that means you have to do something. You have to do something. You have to choose the choices that you want. You have to look at what is important to you right now, and build a plan that allows you to have the things that are important for you over a long period of time. If you like having a phone, you're going to have to come up with a plan to keep that phone and to not have it be lost or stolen or broken. If you like having a car, you're going to have to come up with a plan that allows you to have a car that works all the time and that has insured all the time and that has tires and gas and things like that. That the world is full of choices, and that means that there is something to do. If we stop making choices, we're still making a choice. And we're making a choice to limit what we can do with our resources. Because money is a resource, but it's not the only resource. That there's a lot of resources that are going to pay them. Money is just one. What's in their head is really another one that they should think about. Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to go back through those tips, right? Just to remind you, if you know them. Tip 1, right? Savings is first, not last. I got my notes here. Number 2, know the real costs. If you are willing to go through the family budget, oh, I would love that. I would love that, because I think you'll really get some big deals out of it. Tip number 3, anticipation versus anxiety, right? Anticipation is incredibly helpful, and it's also incredibly painful. So taking it out of the anxiety section and putting it in the anticipation section so that so that they are working towards a known outcome. The known outcome is also, they don't know how to get there. They don't know how to get to here from there. So that's also in that time. So siblings, if you have kids, none of them are going to think alike. They're not going to have a same relationship to money. So you're going to have to figure out what are the things that they need, that one child needs the most. Every single one of you is different. Every single one of us is different. So number 4, tip 4, right? Longer term strategies build really strong financial plans. Tip 5, if you as an adult can take one thing from me today in how to change your life to be wealthier, it's tip 5, right? Base wage, starting wage, and wage increase. Knowing the value of increasing your wage. If your wage has not increased in a year, we should be looking at what can you do. That's why so many parents have a side hustle, that they have a little part-time job that can bring in extra money. But it may be selling your skills at a different rate. Tip number 6, right? The costs and benefits of owning money. There is a responsibility with money. And it's not just to spend it correctly. It's a responsibility is that you are now going to move into banking relationships. You're going to come into taxation. You're going to come into a lot of other things. Money has a responsibility. And there's a lot of benefits for that. The number one reason why we see this huge entrepreneurial trend all over the world is because people are understanding money in a lot more ways. And entrepreneurship is one of the fastest ways that we can teach and build wealth all over the world. So that's because somebody has decided that they've got a world full of choices and they're going to be investing in them. And then that bonus tip I really want you to take to heart, which is, right, that invest in experiences. That you don't have to know the outcome going in. You won't know it, but you will know the goal as the outcome. But how that makes you feel, that experience of what you take away inside, is really critical. And that's what makes people feel wealthy. It's not the money. It's the way the experiences make them feel. And that is true wealth. That's true wealth. So thank you so much for spending time with me. We have all sorts of ways to get a hold of us. We'll put them probably down here in a box that you can click into. And, thanks so much for paying attention to your kids. All right. Bye.